Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Um, we are just going to go ahead and give a couple moments while we wait for folks who want to join us live today to join in on the fun. In the meantime, feel free to take a look at our lovely starting slide. Get excited for the chat today. I know I'm excited. Kelby, are you excited?
Super excited.
Great, awesome. And I love the picture that we have of you has those fall colorful backgrounds. I know that where you are, you're coming to us from Minnesota. I know it's fall there. I mean, it's fall everywhere, but I know it's particularly beautiful over there, right?
Yes, yes, and that picture is actually from Japan, like a Japanese garden. So yeah, I figured it was perfect, like you said, for the time of season we're in.
Perfect for fall, perfect for it's just a beautiful picture, perfect for, we have our own Japanese garden on the grounds here at CSULB, so solid choice, solid choice. All right. Well, thank you all so much. We will go ahead and get started. My name is Jenna Quinn, and it's my pleasure as the Assistant Director of Alumni and Affinity Engagement to welcome you all to this edition of the 49er Industry Chat Series. Just a couple housekeeping items. Just to let everyone know, this session is being recorded. So what that is going to mean for you guys is that this will be available to you again on demand, on both on our website, and for those of you who pre-registered, we'll send you a copy there. But you can go ahead and send this over to a friend or a colleague or someone else that you think might get something good out of out of this chat today. And then since this is a webinar format, if you're lucky enough to have joined us live today, uh, we we uh, we encourage you all to use that Q&A box that you see on your screen to submit any questions that you have for our guest speaker. If you don't have to wait until the end, as soon as you have a question, just go ahead and put it in there, and we'll make sure that that gets sent on over or asked out loud. And so with that, I am going to read Kelby your bio, so that way everyone can kind of get a baseline for who you are and what you're all about. So originally from Mexico, Kelby Sapien moved to Long Beach in 2002 at the age of 9. He remained in Long Beach until 2016, where he attended Long Beach City College and went on to graduate from CSULB with a degree in computer science. During his time at the beach, he led a research program in security and worked as a mentor through the HSI-STEM program. He has worked as a software engineer for Target since 2016, where he has contributed to the digital and supply chain spaces. Kelby, welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's an honor.
Well, let's just jump right on into it. Let's start with a little bit of background. Can I know I read your bio there, but can you just tell me, what have your been what were your experiences and what was your life like the leading up to coming to Cal State Long Beach?
Yeah, yeah. As you called out, I moved to the U.S. when I was 9. So for me, part of that was trying to be basically learning the language, trying to assimilate as I was new to this country and um, getting to know like the education system's a bit different from Mexico. But yeah, I went to elementary, did fifth grade elementary, went to do middle school, high school in Long Beach as well. So pretty much all my education's in Long Beach, including university. And yeah, for me, it was like I wanted to stay in Long Beach. I knew I really liked Long Beach as far as a home and things like that. And uh, when it came to actually going to college and things like that, I was looking for an affordable option. So the community college route seemed perfect for me. And I knew that there were many avenues to try to transfer to university, whether that be UC, a CSU. And so Long Beach had great programs that I looked into as far as computer engineering, computer science, and so it was a no-brainer for me to try to go there and complete my the last 2 or 3 years that I had left for computer science, and yeah, the rest is get the job at Target and things like that. But yeah, that's how I ended up at Long Beach.
Yeah. And you did go, through that Long Beach school system, through LBCC. How did you find that transition from LBCC going to community college to coming over here to the beach?
Yeah, no, I think LBCC had great programs in terms of letting you know what classes you needed, what classes are transferable, which ones are not, and those type of things that really help students gauge what it is that they need in order to transfer, how many units you need, how close you are to transferring, and all that. And so all that played a role in terms of like where you want to go. Do you want to go to a CSU? Do you want to go to UC? And so that kind of shapes the track that you want to take. And for me, yeah, just going down the CSU route, sorry, the computer science route. I didn't know what specifically I wanted to do with that, but I knew what kind of classes to take, higher level, math, science, and things like that that would eventually transfer. And so that was I think they had a great way for anybody that wanted to go down that path.
That's good. That's great. It's good to hear that you had just that nice transition and that it worked out well for you. Um, and once you were here at the beach, right? So glad that you ultimately chose to go CSULB rather than another CSU or the UC track. But once you were here, what was your student experience like? Were you part of any clubs or activities? I know we spoke a little bit in the bio about it, but what was your student experience like?
Yeah, I was always pretty busy because I worked throughout college. So I worked at a diner, and then of course, taking classes and then part-time working can be a little bit difficult, but it's also good in a way, right? It keeps you busy, so there's not much else besides the school life and then the work life. But I also try to be really involved in campus, on campus as far as like joining the engineering clubs. Trying to do something with the professor. In this case, it was Dr. Aliascari who had a research lab. So I joined that research lab, got a grant through Cal State Long Beach, and we did some cool stuff there. Presented it at the fairs that we have in school. So that was really important for me to try to get engaged with professors. Some of the engineering clubs as well, like SHIP and Tau Beta Pi. I was also part of those things, and it really just puts you in contact with people that are very like-minded that want to go on to, work at the local companies at Long Beach Arts, Raytheon, or any of the engineering companies. And so it opens up that kind of world for you as far as opportunities go. So from that aspect, I thought, yeah, I try to be as involved as I could. I also was part of the HSI-STEM Promotores program, which was the mentorship program at Cal State Long Beach for students within the engineering majors. And that was also really helpful for me as a mentor because I got to learn a lot about myself. I got to learn that a lot of the things that I'm teaching also apply to me. So that was pretty eye-opening in terms of going through the college experience and also trying to be helpful to the mentees that I had under my belt.
Yeah. I mean, or do you still keep in contact with anyone from, either your time as a student or even anyone through the mentoring program?
Oh yeah, absolutely. A lot of the students that I got to work with, they work at a lot of the companies, Microsoft, other engineering companies, and I'm really proud of them. We keep in touch via LinkedIn or other social media websites, and it's great to see just how far, they have gone on to do things with their career, and also just they're your peers, right? So you can always reach out to them and say, what's it like at those companies? Is there any openings? Do you like it? Those type of things are that as you build that network, it's really important to have.
Mm. Yeah, no, I think that that's something that we always try and let folks know. Like you got to build that network, and the folks that are around you are a great resource there, right? Like you're able to keep in touch with them. You primarily through LinkedIn or just kind of texting them.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah, and it's also it's really nice, right? You get those LinkedIn updates where someone gets promoted or they moved on to a company that maybe you're interested in, and so like you said, reaching out to them, shooting them a message, and seeing how they're doing. And everyone's busy these days, but I think we got to make time for those connections, and it's always great to celebrate the people that you knew and that you kind of helped along the way, and they also help you along the way. So yeah, it's great to just see all that.
Well, so kind of taking a step back and kind of asking something that's a little bit more big picture. Um, you know, what made you decide that this was the major for you? What made you decide that this was the career track for you?
Yeah, for me, I've always been interested in technology, whether it was from like, playing all the Nintendo 64 games or anything related to computers. And I remember senior year of high school, I took it's like a computer engineering type of class where we would take apart old computers from the 90s and then essentially put them back together and
Oh my
do those,
goodness.
yeah, like floppy disks and all those things that people probably don't know anything about anymore. But it was a fun class in that aspect that you get to take things apart and put them back together. But it was also frustrating for me because once again they were computers from the 90s, and so they don't always end up working as they should when you put them back together because components get damaged or things happen along the way. And that's when I knew I wanted to do something with software. It was 12th grade in high school where I told myself that if I am going to build anything, it should be software related because I would run into a lot of issues where essentially I would break something and it's a hardware component, so you can't really fix it right. You got to get a new one. And so to me, the aspect of building something and being able to fix it after the fact if you do break something sounded really cool to me, right? Like you can make a mistake like we all do as humans, but software allows you to uh, fix that, patch it up, and move on from that mistake.
For sure. We had a question come through in the Q&A, so um I just wanted to take a step for that. Um, was there anything that you wished CSULB had included in its curriculum to help you with your current position? Or, just anything that I mean, CSU and its curriculum, or maybe any kind of opportunities or experiences that you wish you would have got while you were still a student?
Yeah, no, great question. I think Cal State Long Beach is very, in terms of the teaching that you get at Cal State Long Beach, is very theory based, right? Like you go ahead and you learn about all kinds of things computer science related, but it's all at the theory level. And when you get into your job, when you get into the career that you're hoping to get into, a lot of it's just practical. It's things that you maybe didn't learn so much in school, and there's different schools that do focus on that heavily. There's boot camps, of course, which are not your a formal education, but they do focus on that. But there's pros and cons to both approaches, right? If you learn how to do something really well, that's the only thing that you know how to do. But if you learn the theory aspect of it, it kind of opens your mind to build anything that you want because the practice aspect of it you learn on the job versus the theory, you kind of don't go back and hit the books as hard as you do once you're actually working 9 to 5. And so it's a pro and a con, but I think if as you get towards, yeah, I believe, capstone projects and things like that, I would look for something that's more applicable to the real world, whether that's building, websites, Android applications, or backend servers and things like that, because it does put you closer to that job, to that career that you're hoping to get. Um, and so not so much, I don't think that was missing so much. You do have to look for those opportunities. In my case, I was working with a professor in the research lab. So those opportunities aren't exactly presented to you like right away, but it is something that CSULB offers, and you just gotta look for them.
Yeah. No, and I kind of wanted to dive into that a little bit more. What your experiences working in a research lab, right? Like, how did you, find this professor, and how did you find the opportunity to be a part of the research lab, and how did you position yourself to find success there?
Yeah, part of it, I believe, came through working with HSI-STEM, the
Mhm.
Promotores program, being able to work alongside a lot of engineers, a lot of people that are involved in student activities, student programs. I believe that's how I learned about it, and then I applied for it. And then I was lucky enough to get it and work with the professor. But once again, it's that network, right? It's who do you know and where can I find these programs? I mean, they're posted all along the CSULB websites like, hey, apply for these programs, but you'd be surprised how many people don't apply because maybe they don't know about them, or maybe there's just something that they weren't looking for at the time, and you're like, well, I'm looking for it, right? I want to be part of that. And so for me, it was one of those things that, like, yeah, I kind of just knew people that uh, were very good about advertising some of that and saying, hey, maybe you should look into this. And so I'm very grateful that I got to be part of those groups.
And were you able to kind of gain a little bit more of those practical skills through working in the research lab?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because when you get homework in a classroom setting, you finish a homework and you're kind of done. Where a project like this is kind of ongoing, very much like anything software related in the real world, right? Like Facebook doesn't stop developing their Facebook app. At the end of the year, they kind of just continuously add features, and so it exposes you to that kind of environment where you're constantly building, and there's always going to be something to add on to it. And I believe the project was taken on by different students, right? So you don't finish a project, you just kind of leave it in a good state and you hand it off to the next generation of students that are going to take over.
No, that's great. I think that's such a great experience, right? And it's open and it's available, and folks can delve into that. Um, and so your student experience, it seemed very well rounded, but I want to take you back to when you graduated, right? Like at a certain point, we all put on the cap and gown, and it's time for the real world, right? The real world. Um, how how did you go about taking that next step, right? How did you find that job? Was it an intentional search? Is it something you kind of fell into? What was that next step, and how did you wind up at Target?
Yeah, excellent question. I think that's like one of the main questions that students have, right? Like you mentioned, as you graduate. Um,
Absolutely.
for me, it was very intentional. I knew that doing things like a research lab and exposing a lot of the things that you do as an engineer or as a computer science student opens up those opportunities for you. And through SHIP, which is an engineering club at Cal State Long Beach and a lot of other universities, I was able to get involved with that program. And SHIP usually has conferences, annual conferences. And so I flew out to Detroit in the year of 2015, I believe. It was cold. I remember it was winter, and you get to meet all kinds of companies. And that's how I met Target. I didn't know at the time that Target had a tech department, but I met the recruiter then, and yeah, I interviewed with them on the spot. They gave me a job offer for an internship, and um, yeah, sorry, it was 2014 because I did the internship in 2015 and then joined Target 2016. But yeah, after the internship, it's probably one of the easiest ways to get a full-time job at any company. And so, if for anybody that's looking for that path, it's almost foolproof. Provided you don't do anything crazy in your internship and you actually do the work that they're telling you to do. It's a great way to get your foot in the door, and it's also a great way to learn whether or not you're gonna like a company, the culture, and things like that, because you're kind of trying them out, and you're on a trial for them as well. So that's kind of how it came about, joining Target.
I like the advice. Don't do anything crazy during your internship. Because this is a lot of people's first taking on an internship. For a lot of students, that's their first kind of experience in the job market, right? In a corporate setting or an office setting or anything like something like that. How was your experience with the internship? Did you find that in that trial run, obviously you stuck around, so you were happy with that culture, but any tips or tricks for how to be successful during that internship trial period?
Yeah, for me, I think uh, a lot of it was forming, a bond with the people that are in that internship as well, because they're learning some things that you might not be learning. Maybe they're part of a different team, and they can kind of give you guidance on like what they're doing, what maybe you should be doing better. So making sure that you make friends in those internships, that you acquaint yourself with the people that have been at those companies for a while. Maybe they will become your mentors if you choose to come back. All those things really help with the experience. and also asking yourself the hard questions. If it's a company that's, you know, like in my case in the Midwest, are you willing to go through, you know, cold winters? Are you willing to leave family behind? Like those type of things, just to make sure that you're being realistic about the move, as opposed to just, hey, I'm just here for the summer, and maybe it turns into something, maybe it doesn't, but just be realistic as to like, you know, when those opportunities come to you, which internship might be the better fit for me because of these reasons.
Well, got past that. Thank you for that. Got past that trial period. And now, right, you are a senior software engineer over at Target. I think a lot of folks would love to know, what does that mean? What is a day in your position? What does a typical day in your position look like? What are you actually doing?
Yeah, I wake up, I want to say, like, there's days, depending on the interactions that I need to have throughout the day, but most of the days start at around 8 a.m. We do have a Target India office, so it's not unusual, you know, if I'm working with the team in India, sometimes I do have to wake up earlier because it's late for them. That doesn't always happen, but there is those one-off meetings where I have to be up, say, 7 a.m. or so. But typically, you know, wake up at around 8 a.m. I start by doing a to-do list every morning of the things that I want to accomplish throughout the day. Around 9 a.m., you know, I we do what we call stand up, which is basically sharing what you did yesterday, what you're going to do today, and any blockers that you might have that anybody else might be able to help with. There's usually a lot of meetings involved throughout the day, whether they're technical or business related, to try to unblock folks or learn about a requirement that we need to build, those type of things. And so I do try to block some part of my calendar to do heads down coding. So, you know, any day I need to, you know, write X amount of code to fix whatever features or fix or write uh, features that are being requested of us. So I want to say maybe 2, 3 hours a day I try to allocate to coding, heads down coding. But it varies because sometimes it can be very meeting heavy. There might be a fire that we need to put out if there's an incident or something like that. So those things are not unusual. We try to, you know, make our systems as robust as possible, but every now and then you might get maybe an influx of, you know, people on the website, and that's causing our services response times to spike, and that's not good for the guest experience. And so there's things like that where sometimes you drop what you're doing and you go fix that. It doesn't always happen, but it is part of our day-to-day job.
Yeah. I mean, that seems like there might be a lot of pressure, right? Like folks need to buy their stuff on Target online.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so with that, right? My next question is it's kind of two questions in one, so I'll break it down. Um, but what is perhaps the most challenging part of your job?
Yeah, the challenges in software engineering and just building anything in general is that it can be so open, right? Like the business can come to you with any request. It can be, of course, it's going to be retail related in my case because I work for a retailer, but it can be anything like, hey, we want this built, and the way to build it might not be, might not be so easy or so uh, open that you're like, oh yeah, we should just do it this way. No, uh, some of it comes from like, okay, I don't know what you're asking me, so let's gather all the requirements and let's make sure that we talk through it so that we build the right thing. So some of that in and of itself can be a lot of meetings. It can be, it's not necessarily a complex process, but it does require a lot of talking, right, between the engineers and the business folks that want the features to be built. There's also challenges in terms of scalability. A company like Target, such as Target, that's so big and we, yeah, like we affect so many customers throughout the U.S. Um, Scalability is really important for us, and so building systems that can handle traffic, that can handle many requests, that can handle all the data that we intake on a given day. We're talking about millions and millions of uh, dollars that are transacted every day, right? So those type of things do present some challenges at the technical level, and that's part, it's fun to deal with because you have to build solutions that are very robust, that are very scalable, and part of being an engineer, that is what kind of gets you excited. You want to make sure that you get into those problems.
Yeah, the creativity, right? That it takes.
Absolutely, yeah, and there's many ways to get to fix to attack these problems, and just seeing how different people think in the teams that you're part of, it's also really really eye-opening, really cool to see. I might come up with a solution that's different from my peer, but we compare the two and we come up with a better solution. And so that kind of collaboration is also really cool when you're in a team of 4, 6 people where everyone might have a different idea.
Well, it might transition best, or it might transition well, who knows, into the second part of this two-part question, which is, what's the most rewarding part of your job?
Yeah, great question. I think, every engineer, I think once you go through a problem that takes a really long time to solve, just seeing the end solution to that can be really rewarding. Not just from a, hey, this is the solution, this is the technical solution, but how it affects people. And so that's why I try to understand problems at a deeper level, not just the technical aspect, but like if you're asking me to increase something, a feature in the website, or if you're trying to allow more users to go through, what does that open up for Target? What does that open up for anyone? And so seeing the impact that it has on the guests, seeing the impact that it has on the analysts that I work with, or anybody that's using the tools that we built, that's really cool. Or seeing that like now we're able to move 2, 3 times more inventory because of things that we implemented at a warehouse. Like those that type of impact is really cool to see because every now and then you get to see the metrics and you're like, yeah, we did that, right? Like we made sure that that was able to happen because of X and Y.
Great. Um, I want to take a turn back to our audience submitted Q&As just for a moment. And it looks like they have a couple of kind of more technical questions, or I'll let you handle them. First one we have is, do you think that a certificate program using standard development tools like Git development IDEs, database development would be helpful?
I think it can be because it kind of gives you that advantage over someone who might not have used those tools. But I won't say it's necessary. And what I mean by that is, if you are at school, you're likely already being asked to look into databases. I know the Cal State curriculum requires you to take a database course. A lot of the professors that I had required us to use Git to push our code and actually grade it. And so if you're already doing those things, I wouldn't say that a course is necessary for that. But if you want to take it and it's like one of those things that you see maybe on Coursera or something and you get a certificate, it's always cool to put those on LinkedIn and for folks to see that you're actually doing something outside of maybe what other engineers might be doing. So it does supplement your learnings for sure.
Great. And another question that came through, which was, how do you keep up to date with the various systems?
Yeah, there's always things being introduced in especially in our careers, computer science, software in general. Um, there's a thing at Target which we call 50 days of learning. There's 52 weeks in a year, so 50 of those typically you dedicate, or 50 of those days within a year you dedicate to learning, and usually that happens on Friday. So I try to carve a little bit of my Friday to either go online and learn about the new technologies that are being introduced, whether that's an AI initiative, a new language, or things like that, because there is a lot to go through, and so making sure that you keep up with those trends, that you keep up with what's new, maybe a new pattern, those type of things. Carving out some space wherever company you're in, whether they it's something that they promote or self-promoted type of learning. Definitely try to keep up with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, at the beginning of this chat, you were talking about how you did some learning on a floppy disk, right? Like there, which at this point, even though it wasn't all that long ago in the grand scheme of things, seems like an eternity ago. So, yeah, no, I imagine that there's a lot to keep up on, and just at a breakneck pace.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's one of those things where I think this career, you're always a student, right? You're never not learning, and if you do stop learning, that's kind of when you fall behind. And you don't want to fall behind in a field like this because if we're still implementing things from 2010, 2000, obviously there's going to be security risks, there's going to be vulnerabilities that you don't want in your systems, and so making sure that you keep up with those trends, those whether it's AI or anything that will get you ahead, maybe get you a promotion. It's something that you should always look forward to do.
Well, and you're kind of touching on one of the questions that I like to ask everyone through every industry, no matter who I'm talking to, because I feel like it's something that's incredibly pervasive and wide-reaching, which is the role of AI in your field. Artificial intelligence is coming up like a bamboo shoot, right? Like it's like, again, breakneck speed, and it touches so very many industries, but specifically for yours, right? Computer engineering, software engineering. How do you conceive of this in your field? Is AI a good thing? Is it a bad thing? A helpful thing? How do you see the role of AI moving forward in your field?
Yeah, AI is such a hot topic right now. It's something that every company is spending a lot of money on, including Target, and for the good reasons. At Target, we kind of try to stick to a lot of the principles that OpenAI, which is the company that kind of made all this stuff public, and all of a sudden everyone's doing it. Um, but there's a lot of there's you asked whether it's good or bad, and there's a lot of principles that we should follow if we're gonna use AI correctly. And a lot of those principles, include things like being inclusive when you're creating data or training your data, things like that. Making sure that you're ethical in terms of what it is that you're doing with AI. Things like deep fakes and things like that. When you see them online and you're making a video of someone who isn't in the video, not so ethical, right? So there's a lot of that stuff within AI that, uh, if used correctly, can enhance the way we live our lives, the way we work. It can cut down on the time that maybe it took you to summarize a long email, right? Like all those things are really cool. But then you also have bad actors, and then those bad actors kind of, ruin it for a lot of the people that are trying to do a good thing with AI. And so I guess the answer is it bad? The answer to that is it depends, right? Who's using AI and for what reasons? Um, in my field, at a low level, I definitely interact with artificial intelligence in terms of, we do a lot of forecasting. We do a lot of things that require us to maybe detect anomalies and things like that. So AI is used very heavily in that space. Generative AI, which is, the craze these days, which is creating images or being able to ask a large language model for an answer based on the data that you gave it. Let's say you give it 20 PDFs and it's just going to give you answers off of those PDFs. All that stuff is really useful. And so we do have tools at Target that allow you to do that. We use ChatGPT, and I personally use GitHub Copilot, which allows me to basically it gives me suggestions on how to write certain code. If the code seems wrong, it's going to try to poke you and say, hey, by the way, you could also do it this way. And so there's a lot of those things that really help me on a day-to-day, cut down on the time that it takes me to develop tools, software in general.
Well, that's great. I you know are are any do you think that a lot of the industry jobs may be eventually replaced because of AI, or is that something that's many many years in the future?
I think if it ever happens, it's many, many years in the future. The reason for that is that someone needs to write the code that allows AI to learn, right? To train. There's always going to be people that need to do that. But also for anybody that's used AI heavily, there's a lot of hallucination, right? There's a lot of things that it tries to, like if you ask AI for an answer, it's going to go to the web, it's going to pull out information, it's going to try to give you the best answer that it can give you. But what is the best answer? And if you've ever done anything where you get an answer and you're like, wait, that's not even a real thing. That's AI hallucinating, right? Like that's ChatGPT maybe in their model, maybe they don't have the right uh, set of data that it was trained with, and maybe it's giving you an answer that isn't even applicable to what you asked. So there's a lot of poking that you have to do to AI. If you ever have a conversation with any of those chatbots, it's essentially, you know, they call it prompt engineering, right? But basically trying to tell it as specific as possible what it is that you want in order for it to give you the right answer. And so we're not quite there where it can replace people's jobs, I don't think. it's going to be fundamental to the way that we work. But I don't think it's ever going to get to a point where, my job is in jeopardy because of AI. I hope it's not, right? That would be bad for me. Um, but it's definitely moving at a very very high pace. And of course, a lot of companies are really pouring a lot of money into it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, stepping away from the AI, right? And then that computer sort of interaction, right? Strictly computer interaction. Um, I kind of want to ask about that person to person interaction, right? Um, you had some experience mentoring at here at CSULB, but how important is mentoring in your field, right? Do you have any mentors or any mentees? And is that something that is useful in your industry?
Yeah, I think mentorship is super important. You have, um, for myself, I do look up to a lot of people, whether they're peers or it's, directors or managers within the company that I go up to for advice, whether it's tech related or maybe I'm looking for the next big leap in my career. So making sure that you have people that you talk to, that you're comfortable telling your goals to and getting that feedback is super important for me. And just being able to have an honest conversation, right? Maybe because those are the people that you really value in life that will tell you how things really are as opposed to what you want to hear. And so to me, that's really important. Knowing whether I'm a good software engineer and being able to, get that feedback from peers, that's also really important because I want to know that the stuff that I'm doing, is on par with other engineers I look up to. So for me, that's very important. And yeah, as far as like mentees and people that I help out, it's anybody that, comes up to me with questions, whether it's my team or people within the company. Sometimes, you already solved something that someone might be working on, and you can give them tips and tricks as to what not to do or what to do that maybe they could uh, get them go along the right path and things like that. So that mentorship happens on a daily basis, and of course, you have more formal mentorship where you actually get assigned folks that just joined the company, and that's also super important for them because
Mhm.
you might be able to save a lot of time for them just navigating the company, HR, those type of things.
Well, it sounds like, and I think that a lot of people, um, a lot of students have this thought that like mentorship is this like big, scary, super, like just this big monster, or intimidating that has to be the super formal, um, thing that they, maybe aren't ready for yet. But is that the case? It sounds to me like, it's a little softer. It's a little nicer.
Yeah, no, it's definitely really, yeah, like you say, it's definitely softer. It's something that you probably already do on a daily basis. You just don't call it that, right? Um, and for me, it's yeah, Target has a lot of opportunities for mentorship throughout the communities and things like that, and you can go through those avenues. But you can also just maybe someone join, Target, and they happen to be from the same school, and you know that because you see the list of incoming what we call TLPs, Target Leadership Program. It's just the new hires, and you're like, oh, I think I know that person. Let me just reach out to them, or they reach out to you, right? And that's one way to get involved. And it's not necessarily a formal thing like you called out, but it's something that I don't know. It brings you joy because you're from the same town I'm from. Maybe we know the same restaurants. Maybe we ate at the same places, and so that always like those that type of mentorship usually turns into friendships, and I really like that aspect of mentorship.
It's great. We have another Q&A question submitted. And again, as a reminder for folks, if you have any questions that you want to ask, now's the time since we are getting close to the end here. But the one that was submitted, we often hear that engineers are the behind the scenes folks, but that communication is key. So, what advice do you have for students and alumni, maybe in terms of sharpening their communication skills?
Yeah, great question. The biggest advice I was given once is you don't, even if you're the best engineer, if you can't articulate that solution to someone that is not an engineer, it doesn't matter, right? Because at the end of the day, you're building something that someone else is going to use more likely, unless you build something for yourself, which typically doesn't happen, at least not in the corporate world, in the real world. And so being able to, explain it to someone in terms that they can understand, that is super important, because on a day-to-day basis, a team is composed of engineers, but you also have people that are project managers, you have people that are end users, and you have all kinds of folks that are going to get involved in that project. So being able to articulate and being able to explain things, draw things out for them is super important. Otherwise, your solutions, might not make it to the real world because you're not explaining them well.
That's makes a lot of sense. So as we do get closer to the end of the chat, and this just flew by for me, so honestly, that's it's always surprising for me. But as we get close to the end, I do have a question that I always really like to ask folks, which is, um, if you could wave a magic wand, or um, go back in a time machine or something to that effect, and you're able to give yourself a piece of advice when you were first graduating from CSULB, um, what would that be? What would you tell yourself?
Yeah, I probably would tell myself to not be so hard on myself in terms of, you know, I try to be involved in so many things that sometimes you lose track of, hey, you're just a student, right? Like appreciate the little moments here and there. And sometimes when you try to do a lot, that can be a little bit difficult. Um, it's yeah, that's probably the biggest advice I would give myself. Just enjoy the little moments. It's okay to be involved in clubs, so maybe not try to do all of them. Leave some time for friends, for family, because before you know it, you're working 9 to 5, and it just becomes so much more harder to make time to travel back home and those type of things.
Yeah. And you know, if there's any advice that you have for folks who are just starting out, who are maybe not even graduating yet, but who are interested in this field, or interested in taking the first steps in these fields, any advice you have to folks who are just starting out in this field?
Yeah, one thing that I did see during the pandemic was that companies were hiring a lot and people were really into, hey, I want to become a software engineer so I can work from home, so I can have all this freedom. And a lot of it, I think, was driven by how much money you can make in this field. Um, so don't go into this field for the money, because you'll realize really quick that yes, it's a complex field, it's a hard field, um, but you really have to have the passion to keep going, right? Like we're discussing, you're constantly learning things. You're always a student, and so if you're going in just for the sake of the financial incentive, please don't do that, because it's just going to be one of those things that it's probably going to haunt you. And you want to enjoy your career, regardless of whether it's computer science or not. You want to enjoy. You want to wake up to something that actually feels right, and then you want to go to work and say, I want to build something today, and something that I actually enjoy doing.
So, and then of course, you're still pretty young in your career, right? You definitely a rock star over there at Target. But as far as in looking into the future, right? What's next? What's next for you?
Yeah, I really enjoy solving problems. I really enjoy the technical aspect of being a software engineer. So my path is going to be continue on that path. I can go into the management route, which is working with people more closely, but I want to continue to build stuff, and we call it individual contributors, but it's essentially the next level. And you get to higher and higher things, like you definitely do less coding, because you're involved with higher level designs and things like that. But it's you're still in the thick of it in terms of helping teams build solutions that help Target do the things that we do today. And so for me, it's just continuing to do that, and being a hopefully what they call a principal engineer next. And so that's my next goal.
Awesome. Well, that is great. I cannot wait to see that from you. And yeah. So again, thank you so much, Kelby. This has been just a super phenomenal chat. I can't wait to see you take those next steps. I'm so glad that you shared your journey thus far. Um, but if people wanted to maybe continue the conversation, or maybe ask you questions that they weren't able to ask you today, what would be the best place for people to reach out to you?
Yeah, I'm always happy to talk. Add me on LinkedIn. Let's have a chat there if folks that have LinkedIn. If not, message me on a social media platform. I'm pretty much on most of the big ones, and so yeah, just let me know where you're coming from. That way, I don't think you're a stranger. But yeah, let's have a chat if anybody wanted to have a conversation after this.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kelby. I really appreciate it. And with that, I would like to thank everyone who joined us today. Uh, Make sure that you follow us on social media. We're at CSULB alumni on all of those channels. You can reach out to us anytime if you have any questions. And if you, again, if you uh, want to see this again, this will be available for you on our website at csulb.edu/alumni. And again, feel free to share it with everyone who you might feel as though would get something good out of it. Thank you all so much, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
So, hi, Kelby. Let me see if we can stop recording. I can't see the stop recording. However, it's just us left here, so we'll just cut this out at the end before we get this posted up. Noemi, do you see the stop recording anywhere? I sure don't. Anyway,